Namaste, Sakshi, Telugu Prajala Manasakshi, special immigration show ki Swagatam. Today we are back with our expert attorney Bhanu B. Lindra Garu, BBI Law Group, PC's 17 years of experience in law offices. So if you have any questions regarding immigration, feel free to call us. Our attorney will be glad to answer your questions. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show not a legal advice. It's just for information purpose only. So Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for this. If you need any specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. So, hello Bhanu Garu, welcome to the show, Andy.
Hello, Prasanna Garu. How are you? Thank you very much for calling me.
I'm doing good, thank you. Yes, thank you, Bhanu Garu. So, please, can you please provide information on law offices and practice areas and also your experience?
Sure. Thank you very much for asking me that. My law firm name is BBI Law Group PCND. I founded this firm in 2008. I've been practicing immigration law for almost 17 years, actually 17 years now. And I represented in thousands of matters in immigration laws, especially in business immigration, family immigration, even investor visas and other categories also represented quite a few cases. And my firm exclusively practices in immigration law on its related areas only basically. And we are located in Herndon, Virginia, which is a Washington, D.C. suburb, which is one of the famous Washington, D.C. suburbs. It's a Silicon Valley hub. Basically, it's called Silicon Valley of the East, basically the area where I am in right now, basically, you know. And by God's grace, everything is, I mean, we keep on trying to do what are the best we can do and everything. And that's how we are trying to reach through these platforms and everything. And my firm contact details are basically my website is www.bbilawgroup.com and the contact details are 703-496-7722 and the email is crm@bbilawgroup.com, or they can also reach me personally at Bhanu, which is BHEANU Bhanu @bbilawgroup.com. And these are my details. And if they want more details, they can visit my website anytime. They can also contact us through our website also. They can actually schedule an appointment through our website also.
Yes. Thanks for the info, Bhanu Garu. So today's topic is general about immigration laws part 3. As you already previous episode, so we are discussing same thing, right? So as we are heading towards the H-1B season for fiscal year 2021, we want to make sure you know everything about H-1B regarding immigration laws. So before we get into the topic, can we have any latest updates on immigration?
Yes, ma'am. There are a couple of updates which we would basically like to bring in. One is the President Biden actually revoked the President Trump's proclamation order 10014, which is basically prohibiting to issue immigrant visas to certain people who want to migrate into this country as a permanent residence, basically. So that proclamation order has been revoked. That proclamation order actually extended through proclamation order 10052 also by President Trump until December, and then later on till March 31, 2021. And all the parts related to the particular proclamation order 10014, which is actually prohibiting immigrants to coming into this country, certain types of immigrants coming into this country, is actually revoked by the President Biden. And they made an announcement saying that it's not actually in the best interest of the country. Therefore, they're revoking the President Trump's proclamation order pertaining to those things. And second thing is today we got an update about the OPT students, basically, which is a very, very important update. We all know that usually the regulations require OPT students to complete their initial OPT within the first 14-month period from the date of their graduation, basically. So what happens is that from the date they graduate, basically, you know, they issue the OPT period from the date actually they approve it till the end of that 14-month period only, basically. That means basically is that if somebody applies for OPT on the day they graduate, basically, if they don't get OPT EAD card for 4 months, basically, they're going to issue the OPT only for 10 months, not for 12 months. That's what happened in the past, basically. Now, today, USS came back and said that that is incorrect. They're not going to count that 14-month period, not from the date they graduate, but from the date the EAD card actually issued, the 765 actually approved. So the requirement is that from the day the OPT is approved, they have to complete within 14 months of the period of that OPT approved. That correction has been made by the USCIS, and also said that if anybody received from October 1, 2020 till May 31, 2021, anybody with a short duration of OPT, they should be able to reach the USCIS and also take the updates from them, basically, and make sure that they inform the USCIS that it was error by the USA's part, so they can correct and issue new EAD, which is valid for the entire duration of the OPT, initial OPT, that is 1-month period. So that's a very good relief for the OPT students, because due to the undue delay at the lockbox service centers issuing the receipts and everything, these students have lost a lot of time in getting this. And I know that there are many students, few of them which we applied from our office also, basically, they haven't received the receipts yet. The ones we filed in October, November, we haven't received the receipts yet because of the undue delay in the lockbox service centers, basically because of the postal services, because of the COVID-19 and everything, So those things will really help us basically right now. And actually, so these things will really help the OPT students. So it's a great news for the F1 students in this country, because now they can utilize their entire 12-month OPT period rather than just the remaining period during the initial 14-month duration period. So these are the two major updates, madam, which I would like to bring in the call.
Yes, we have some callers, Bhanu garu, so let's take our first caller, Sunita from NC. Sunita, please go on.
Hello.
Hello, Sunita garu.
Hello. Hello, Andy. I am actually from North Carolina. So do I have to ask me a question in Telugu or English?
I didn't understand, ma'am. What are you trying to ask?
So do you want me to ask a question in Telugu or English? Asking the Sakshi TV voice.
Be comfort.
Okay. So, yeah. I have valid visa till July 2021. And it is difficult to get valid visa stamping outside the country right now. In US, it's going to take more than 8 to 10 months. So what I'm thinking is, I want to go cross the border and get my I-94 and apply for EAD extension using I-94. Is that possible? Just through I-94 extension, do they accept standalone EAD applications? That's the main question. And do they extend I-94 based on my husband's H1 extension is the continuation?
Do you have a visa in your passport, ma'am? Do you have a valid visa in your passport?
Yes, I have my valid visa till July 2021. So I want my husband to get H1 in premium processing, and using that H1, I'm thinking of going and extending my I-94. Will they extend my I-94 as per my husband's H1 extension?
No, usually they don't, ma'am. They'll issue the I-94 till your H4 visa validity in your passport. And you can try at the port of entry showing your husband's new H1B extension, but it's very unlikely that they'll issue the I-94 until that duration, basically because they require you to go for a stamping for the duration on your H4. So sometimes we have seen at the port of entry where they do issue I-94s, extended I-94s, but most of the times they don't. They'll issue the I-94 only till date your visa is valid in the passport. Or if you have H4 approval notice, which is your own 797A for the H4, they will issue your I-94 until the validity of that H4, basically, not based upon your husband's H1B approval notice.
Right. Thanks for the calling, Andy. Right. We have another caller, Rajni from Pennsylvania. Rajni, please go on.
Yeah. Hey, I have a couple of questions. So first I'll tell my visa timeline, so then you can help me on that. So I have my H1B approved on September 25th, 2018, and H4 and H4 EAD approved on September 11th, 2018. But my effective date for H4 and H4 EAD is December 21st, 2018. So I'm right now confused, like whether I'm on H1 status or H4 status. I'm confused because the effective date is December, but the approval date is before my H4 approval.
Your effective date determines under the last action rule, whenever your latest I-94 comes into effect, that determines your status in this country, basically in the US. So if the H1B I-94 comes into effect late than the H4 I-94, then you're automatically into H1B status under the last action rule. So naku voice clear ga ledandi, so it's very difficult for me to understand what you are trying to say here. But that is my understanding basically from your side. that I'm assuming that your H4 has come earlier, basically, and then your H1B came into effect from December 31, 2018. Therefore, you are technically deemed that you are on H1B status under the last action rule. If I'm right, what I understood with the facts with what you said, that's what it is. I could be wrong with the facts, basically, because as I said, your voice was not clear for me. So I could be confused with the facts over there. And I'm sorry if I were wrong with the facts over there.
Yes, that's fine, Bhanugaru. We have another caller from Suresh. Suresh, please go on.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Suresh.
Yeah, hi. So I have just a quick question for you. I'm going for my first H1B stamping, which will be a change of status from F1 to H1. I received my H1B in October 2019, and in 2020 I couldn't go due to COVID. And this year I'm going in April, right? So I just wanted to ask, what is the longest duration I can stay in India after my H1B stamping? Because it's been a while I haven't visited India, and I just wanted, it's work from home these days. So I just wanted to know, is there any issues if I stay longer there, and how long I can stay there?
That's between you and your employer, and you have to understand that you should be able to come back to the US before your H1B expires or your visa expires, whatever it is. Basically, I'm assuming that your H1B status and also your visa status will be the same, expiration date will be the same. So that's what it is. But when you want to come back to US, it's between you and your employer. If you have a job employment with your employer, and if your employer is okay for you to stay in India for a long period of time on vacation, it is absolutely okay. So it's between you and your employer, how long you can stay in India.
Right. Thanks for calling, Suresh. Next, we have caller Bhumika. Bhumika, please go on.
Hi. My husband is on H1B, and his new employer he has the H1B with the new employer for till 2022 January. The GC filing status is work in progress and POM not filed yet. I-140 approved since 2012 through previous employer with priority date of EB2 category February 2011. My question is, when my date gets current, can I file for I-485 through an attorney outside my employer?
Provided your husband also files 485. Yes, if your husband also files 485, you can file 485 as his dependent with outside attorney. 485 can be filed by outside attorneys. It doesn't have to be the company's attorneys. But however, you have to understand that is that if your husband wants to file 485, their company must consent to that and issue a I-485J supplement, because they're filing 485 separately without I-140. So they have to include I-485J supplement, which is basically nothing but an offer letter confirming by the employer that they intend to hire him permanently in the position for which they actually filed green card for him, basically, or file I-140 for him. So that's what it is. You just can't file by yourself 485. Your husband also has to file with you because he's the principal beneficiary.
Yes, right. Thanks for calling. Yes, Bhanugaru. So it's time to discuss some H1 related questions. Sure. So, who qualifies for H1B exactly?
Generally, the people who qualify for H1B is the ones who have educational qualifications, at least a bachelor's degree or its equivalent, US bachelor's degree or its equivalent in the field of endeavor in which they are intending to be employed, basically. So what does it mean is that if you ever in a software engineer job, loki ikkada H1B cheskovali anukunte, software engineering sambandhinchina education and degrees lo, basically, like example, computer science kaniyandi, information technology kaniyandi, lekapothe management information systems kaniyandi. There are various other related degrees, right? Related to computer science, there are like 7-8 categories, like a computer applications kaniyandi, whatever it is. They should have a minimum that education requirement, US bachelor's degree. That means they should have at least 4-year bachelor's degree equivalent education through a combination of education, training, or an experience. And what do you mean by that is basically is that just not only 4-year degree. If somebody doesn't have a 4-year degree, if he has a 3-year degree or a 2-year degree, but he has an equivalent experience. USCIS says that if somebody has a 3 years of progressive responsible experience in the field of endeavor, in the field, while in field of ఆ ఫీల్డ్ లో 3 ఏళ్ళు ప్రోగ్రెసివ్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఉందనుకోండి, అంటే దినదిన ప్రవర్ధమానంగా అభివృద్ధి పొందుతున్న ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఉందనుకోండి, బేసికలీ అది ఆ 3 years ని ఈక్వల్ టు 1 year అకాడమిక్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ కింద యూఎస్ఎస్ కన్సిడర్ చేస్తుంది అనమాట. సో ఆ విధంగా ఈక్వేట్ చేసుకోవడం మనం ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ట్రైనింగ్ కూడా చేసి అండ్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ కంబైన్ చేయొచ్చు. ఈవెన్ ట్రైనింగ్ కూడా, ఇఫ్ ద ట్రైనింగ్ ఇస్ if they have a 3 years of training, which is not a college education, basically the 3 years of training is considered equal to 1 year of education, basically, as per the USCIS regulations. So if somebody has that US bachelor's degree equivalent in a field of endeavor in which they are going to be employed, then they are the ones who will be eligible for the H-1B. Not everybody qualifies for H-1B, unfortunately, because of that.
So, Bhanugaru, is there any change in this quota for H-1B this year?
Not many, no change, basically. I mean, we were expecting that they will implement the wage level selection for this lottery, but that was not happened because they postponed it till December 31, 2021. So yes, there is no change from last year this year, basically. It is the same as the last year right now, basically, right? So what they're telling you is basically is that if the employer is required to register from March 9, 2021 till March 25, 2021, if they want to file an H-1B petition on their behalf before for this fiscal year 2022 calendar, which starts from October 1, 2021, basically, and so the requirements, the information which employers are required to provide is a minimal information, just like last year. What is the company name, if they're doing any DBA, and basically, and also the company address, company tax ID number, and the signatory name, signatory title, signatory contact details, and a beneficiary minimum information, whether beneficiary name, basically first name, last name, middle name. If the beneficiary doesn't have a first name and middle name, they can mention the last name, and other things are known. Those things are technical issues, which I don't think it's necessary to talk over here. And then obviously beneficiaries, country of birth, and that's what is very, very important. And the beneficiary is education also, whether he qualifies for the master's quota or not, basically, advanced degree quota or not. Yeah. So it's a very minimal information which is required by the USCIS, even now in this lottery. And USCIS also said in the conference calls yesterday, and not yesterday, 2 days ago and 3 days ago, with the registrants and with the lawyers, basically, that from March 2nd onwards, the employers can start filling the registrations online in their portals, basically, in their accounts, basically, right? And they can keep them ready to submit them from March 9th, 2021 onwards, basically. So March 2nd is a very important date because employers can start filling the information for the registrations. And we are welcoming everybody to contact us to do the registrations on their behalf. We're not charging anything for the registrations. It's a free of service from us. We are extending as a courtesy to the employers. They're welcome to reach out to us. We're very happy to help them. If they have not created their accounts yet in the USCIS portal, we'll be very happy to assist them to create that accounts in the USCIS portal and able to submit the registration, prepare the registrations, and submit the registrations on their behalf. It is a pure courtesy from our firm, which we are doing. It's no charge for them for the registration purposes. Obviously, the charges, everything will kick in once we start filing H-1B petitions with the USCIS.
Right. Happy to hear that. Bhanugaru, we have another caller, Rajni, please go on.
నాది ఇప్పుడు H4EAD అప్రూవ్డ్ 2021 డిసెంబర్ వరకు ఉందండి. ఆఫ్టర్ దట్ నాకు H1 అప్రూవ్ అయింది. సో ఇప్పుడు నా H1 రివోక్ చేస్తే నా ఎంప్లాయర్ నేను ఆటోమేటిక్ గా H4 లోకి వెళ్ళిపోతానా, లేదు అంటే చేంజ్ ఆఫ్ స్టేటస్ అప్లై చేయాలా అండి?
మీరు చేంజ్ ఆఫ్ స్టేటస్ అప్లై చేయాలండి. యూ విల్ బి అవుట్ ఆఫ్ స్టేటస్. ఇఫ్ H1B విత్డ్రా చేస్తే మీ ఎంప్లాయర్, యూ విల్ బి అవుట్ ఆఫ్ స్టేటస్. యూ హావ్ టు అప్లై ఫర్ చేంజ్ ఆఫ్ స్టేటస్.
అంటే అప్రూవ్డ్ H4 ఉంది కదా 2021 డిసెంబర్ వరకు.
Once your change of status is approved, that H4 gets automatically invalidated. Only the way you can actually come back to H4 is basically is that if you have a valid visa in your passport, you can go abroad and then enter on H4 visa. That's how you'll have an H4, but your H4 EAD will not be valid anymore, basically. You have to apply for EAD again after that. But otherwise, you just can't do that. One person cannot continue if this status without filing a proper change of status applications in the country, basically. So because your H1B change of status has been approved and H1B is kicked in, you're no longer in H4, and your H4 approval, whatever there is, it gets invalidated on the day your H1B has been approved.
Okay. So EAD kuda invalid అయిపోతుందా?
Automatic invalid అయిపోతుందండి. అవునండి.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andy.
Sure.
Yes, thanks for calling. And next we have Dilip from Chicago. Dilip, please go on.
Sure. Hello, Banagaru. Yeah.
Hello,
so, I'm currently on H1B visa. My first H1B is approved in 2019 October. So at that time, my attorney by mistakenly applied for H4 EAD for my wife. Actually, I don't have any I-140 with me. So after 1 year, 10 months, recently USA sent a letter saying that H4 EAD approved for my wife. I don't know why USA has approved H4 EAD for my wife without I-140. So what can I do in this situation?
It's an erroneous approval. That's all I can say. It's your responsibility to inform the USCIS that she is not eligible for H4 EAD because you don't have any I-140 approval. And it's an erroneous approval by USCIS. They should revoke or withdraw that H4 EAD approval.
Okay, so that process, do we need to do from the attorney perspective, or do you simply call them and inform regarding that?
Because you are the applicant. As an applicant, your wife can call the USCIS and let them know also. It doesn't have to go through the attorney. Even you can talk to your attorney, and your attorney also can do that. But it's between you and your attorney, basically.
Right. Thanks for calling, Dilip. And next we have Mahesh from Florida. Mahesh, please go on.
Hello, Andy. I have one question. సో నేను H1లో ఉంటున్నానండి. నాది ఇప్పుడు ఈ మధ్యనే H1 ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ అప్రూవ్ అయింది 3 years. మా ఆవిడది H4 అప్లై చేద్దామని మేము అవుట్ ఆఫ్ కంట్రీ మెక్సికోకి వెళ్ళి బ్యాక్ వచ్చినప్పుడు I-94 ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ చేయించుకున్నాము. అక్కడ లక్కీగా వాళ్ళు చేశారు మాకు. సో ఇప్పుడు క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటంటే తనకి ఏడి స్టాండర్డ్లో అప్లై చేద్దాం అనుకుంటున్నాను ఇప్పుడు ఈ I-94 ఎక్స్టెన్షన్తో. సో ఏమన్నా ఇష్యూస్ ఉంటాయా దీంతో, ఆర్ఎఫ్ఈ పడడం అలా ఏమన్నా?
అంటే మీకు I-140 అప్రూవ్ అయ్యింటే ఇష్యూస్ ఏమి ఉండకూడదండి. బికాస్ షీ హాస్ అ వ్యాలిడ్ H4 స్టేటస్. ఇఫ్ షీ హాస్ అ వ్యాలిడ్ H4 స్టేటస్, యూ షుడ్ నాట్ హావ్ ఎనీ ప్రాబ్లం.
Okay.
కానీ పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే one question I have here is basically is the facts are not clear is, did you go for the stamping in Mexico, or basically she just got an I-94 at the port of entry for H4 and she's not a Mexican citizen or Canadian citizen? I'm sorry?
స్టాంపింగ్ లేదండి. స్టాంపింగ్ వెళ్ళలేదు, డైరెక్ట్ జస్ట్ విజిటింగ్కి వెళ్ళాము. రిటర్న్ లో పోర్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఎంట్రీ దగ్గర నా H1B ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ డాక్యుమెంట్ చూసి దాంతో తనకు కూడా I-94, నాకు తనకి ఇద్దరికి I-94 ఎక్స్టెండ్ చేశారు.
బికాస్ మీది ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ కాబట్టి తనకి ఎక్స్టెండ్ చేశారు. దట్స్ గుడ్. షీస్ ఫైన్ దట్.
యా. ఓకే. థ్యాంక్స్ అండి. థ్యాంక్స్ లాట్.
Yes, right. థ్యాంక్స్ ఫర్ కాలింగ్ అండి. సో భాను గారు, మనకి H1B లాటరీ ప్రాసెస్ ఈ ఇయర్ కూడా అదే కాబట్టి ఆ ప్రీవియస్ ఇయర్ తో కంపేర్ చేసుకుంటే ఏమైనా చేంజెస్ ఉన్నాయా? సేమ్ లాటరీ ప్రాసెస్ కంటిన్యూ అవుతుందా?
Same lottery process, and basically once you register and everything, they're going to take first general quota lottery, just like everything. In that master's quota, people also included in that. And once the general quota is over, then whoever left over in the master's quota people, those are going to be kept in the master's quota, and they're going to take the lottery for the master's quota also. That increases the advanced degree people from the US to get selected more in the lottery. And it is the same thing which has been in the last year also. It has nothing, it will change basically. Only thing is that we have to make sure that everybody has to remember the timeline, very important. Last year, we have seen a lot of employers missing the deadline because the lottery closes at 12 noon on March 25th, not 11:59 p.m. on March 25th. It's on 12 noon that means 11:59 a.m. of March 25th, basically. So it's very important that we have to understand that it's a.m., it's not p.m., basically, right? So do not keep it till the last minute. Talk to your lawyers. Your lawyers will be able to help you with this. And most of them, like us, most of them are extending courtesy for free registration. So don't take too much trouble for yourself unless you can talk to your lawyers. They're very happy to help you. And we are very happy to help you if you reach our firm and ask us to do the registration for you. Whether you file H1B with us or not, it's a different thing. If you want us to help you with the registration, we are very happy to do that for you. So not too much change, really. It's the same thing basically like last year.
Yes, Bhanu garu, we have another caller, Varun from Atlanta. Varun, please go on.
Hello, sir. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, Varun.
I have a quick question on one of my wife's current H1B and how we are struggling to get to our H4 EAD, sir. The question was, so my wife had a H1, approved H1 back in 2014 as part of the 2015 H1B quota, the standard lottery quota. She had that approval, but the thing is, by the time H4 EAD came into the picture, she never went into H1 status, but she started using H4 EAD and she has been continuing to do that. But because of the recent delays in the H4 EAD, although we applied for it, we are still waiting on getting that approval and get an EAD card in hand. While we're doing that, because of this delay, her employer was asking if she can be sponsored an H1B through the employer, while not to interrupt with her employment meanwhile. If it may take 5 months or 6 months, right, because of the H4 EAD. And then we spoke to the attorney and they were saying that although she was really approved back in 2014, and now her employer is willing to file the H1B, but she falls under, she doesn't fall under the general change of status. She has to go through the same old lottery process again for 2022 quota. Is that right, sir? Am I missing anything?
It is yes or no, because I would say because it's been 7 years, and sometimes some attorneys do feel that way. Sometimes USCIS can create an issue on that, but we have been successful in these type of matters in the past where we're able to argue that she's not subject to the cap because she already had H1B approved in 2014, which is valid till 2017, and that H1B was not withdrawn by the employer. It was there at the time before it came into effect because it's a H1B petition, and also that USCIS usually counts the number at the time of its approval, not at the time when she used it basically or anything like that. I'm assuming that this petition is a consular processing petition. This is not a change of status petition. If that is where this problem will come. If it's a change of status petition, then there is no problem at all because already change of status would have kicked in and then she would have come back into H4 again. Therefore, she's not subject to the cap. The whole issue comes is basically is that if this petition is a consular processing petition, then the USCIS sometimes come back and tell you that she is required to go for a stamping in order herself not to subject to the cap because she hasn't gone for the stamping. But we have been successfully able to argue on this and able to get this one done in the past. But of course, we have seen USCIS insisting sometimes with RFEs and everything also under these circumstances. It's not like we did not see that. But I would say you should try a non-cap case also. And also you have an opportunity to register for lottery in this cap also. So do that also at the same time. There's nothing wrong with it. File a non-cap case first in the premium processing and see whether it gets approved or not. If it gets approved, then she's very good actually. And I don't see any problem in doing that if we were the attorneys.
Right, Bhanu garu, thank you. It's time to wind up the show. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prasanna garu. Thank you very much for Sakshi TV and Sakshi team. And I'm really, really thankful. I mean, you guys have been really great to me all the time, welcoming me into your shows and everything. And you made me part of your family, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Prasanna garu. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Right. Idi ivalti special immigration talk show. Maro episode lo malli kaludam. Keep watching Sakshi TV, Telugu Prajala Manasakshi. Namaste.